Come to order. This hearing is fully virtual, so we need to address a few housekeeping matters. First, for today's last meeting, the chair or staff designated by the chair may mute participants' microphones when they are not under recognition for the purposes of eliminating inadvertent background noise. Second, members are responsible for muting and unmuting themselves. If I notice when you are recognized you have not unmuted yourself, I will ask if you would like the staff to unmute you. If you indicate approval by nodding, staff will unmute your microphone. Third, you will notice a clock on your screen that will show how much of the 5-minute clock is remaining. If there's a technology issue, we will move to the next member. Fourth, we will begin with the chair and ranking member, then members present at the time the hearing is called to order will be recognized in order of seniority. Finally, House rules require me to remind you that we have set up an email address to which members can send anything they wish to submit in writing at any of our hearings. That email address has been provided in advance to your staff. The committee will come to order. For our third and final panel today, I would like to welcome the architect of the Capitol, the Honorable Brett Blanton, to present the AOC's fiscal year 2023 budget request. Mr. Blanton, thank you. And thank you to the AOC. Faye, I think your microphone's on. I also want to thank Jonathan Kraft and Christine Leonard for their work during the last appropriation cycle and getting us up to speed quickly as we transitioned subcommittee team members. For fiscal year 2023, the AOC is requesting $1.67 billion, an increase of $890.5 million, or 115% in appropriated funds over what was provided last year. This is a significant request. I see that at least 71% of this increase is focused on addressing the physical security changes that have been recommended in reports following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. I hope you can provide details on the additional needs for this increase in your testimony here today. A smoothly functioning AOC is important to all members and staff. We understand the workload for AOC staff continues to increase as you continue to work on ongoing projects and simultaneously addressing the new challenges that have arisen this past year. On top of that, the AOC continues to face a significant backlog of substantial facility renovation needs, both immediate and long-term. New construction projects require design and implementation, and there continues to be concerns regarding discrimination in the AOC workplace. As you tackle these very important issues, you will have our subcommittee support. However, it is critical you give us some reassurances today about how your budget request addresses these challenges. At this point, I'd like to yield to my colleague and friend from Washington State, the ranking member, Jamie Herrera Butler, for any opening comments that she would like to make.
All right, I got the mute button off. Thank you, Chairman Ryan and Mr. Blanton. Thank you so much for being here today. So I wanted to start off with saying I really appreciate how proactive you have been on reaching out on a number of things that the AOC is working on, and including this year's budget request. I think it helped us put it in perspective. It would have been a little bit of sticker shock, but it was helpful to get that information beforehand. And I want to say thank you to your staff for their due diligence and really hard work over the past year in dealing with a lot of challenging circumstances across the Capitol community, and working in coordination with the Office of the Attending Physician, the Capitol Police, and the other entities to prepare the campus to open its doors to reopen our doors to our constituents in light of all of that. In addition to the major undertakings that you all are already managing, such as the Cannon House Office Building renewal and the pipe replacement at the Capitol Power Plant, the AOC is asking for it is a substantial increase to address security recommendations in the aftermath of the January 6th riot. I don't even know what the right word is. Mr. Blanton, I fully support doing what needs to be done to keep everyone who passes through the doors of Congress safe, visitor, staff, member alike. But obviously, when we're discussing this much money, we need to do it with the utmost scrutiny and transparency, which I know you agree. So I know that some of the information does need to remain classified. But you have also agreed publicly, that there is a lot around here that has been over-classified. And there does need to be, where we can make it happen, more transparency. So I agree with that. I think that the taxpayer dollars we're using, obviously, it's not private money, and we want to make sure that that we're doing everything we can to open up as much as we can, so that folks know, the American taxpayer knows that what they're paying for and what the return on that is. So I think there's a good story to tell. I think that's part of why opening up on the transparency sometimes will help us tell that story to the public more, and I think it'll make it go a lot further. So I look forward to your testimony and how your office is gonna move forward in this and many of these initiatives, and in order to execute this mission. And with that, I yield back to Chairman Ryan. From the state where the first ambulance service was established in Cincinnati. So thank you.
Thank you for that reminder, Ms. Herrera Butler. I appreciate it. Without objection, Mr. Blanton, your written testimony will be made part of the record. Please summarize your statement for the members of the committee. Once you have finished your statement, we will move to the question and answer portion of our show. You have the floor.
Chairman Ryan, Ranking Member Herrera Butler, and members of the subcommittee, I appreciate the opportunity to testify today. Before I begin, I would like to extend my appreciation for the committee's work to achieve the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022. I also appreciate the committee's strong support for the Cannon Renewal Program. As the Cannon building moves forward towards final completion, we are meeting deadlines and keeping the project on track. At the same time, we are making major progress with other prioritized projects and initiatives. Before I go into detail about AOC's budget requests, I want to acknowledge two major anniversaries this week. First, we're joining the communities around the nation to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Frederick Law Olmsted's birth. The founder of American landscape architecture, Olmsted designed many of our country's favorite parks. Relevant to today's hearing, he was the visionary behind the plan for the Capitol grounds. Enduring for centuries, Olmsted's design accentuates the unforgettable experience of looking upon the Capitol building. Beyond his enduring design, Olmsted's detailed plan included the lanterns and walkways that AOC preserves and maintains today. AOC's arborists still care for about 40 of the original trees planted as part of Olmsted's plan. Perhaps unknowingly, many visitors continue to be inspired by Olmsted's majestic and unforgettable vision for our treasured Capitol building. As we enjoy the beautiful environment in the springtime, we are also honoring another significant milestone, the bicentennial commemoration for the two-term President Ulysses S. Grant. Particularly relevant for AOC and this committee, we're honoring the 100th anniversary of the Grant Memorial. Situated at the edge of Union Square reflecting pool with the Capitol as its backdrop, this historic monument marks the eastern side of the National Mall. Henry Merwin Schrader spent over 20 years creating this sculpture, which is now recognized as the largest equestrian monument in the country. 11 years ago, AOC took responsibility for the memorial's preservation. Since then, we've undertaken a meticulous conservation effort to restore it to its original splendor, highlighting the details of the original sculpture. Facing the Lincoln Memorial, the monument symbolizes the bond between President and the general who fought together to save our nation. Embodying that same spirit, AOC employees have remained steadfast in their unwavering service in the face of adversity over the last 2 years. Every day, I'm struck by the commitment and talent of our hardworking employees. Whatever the weather, our grounds teams work diligently to maintain this oasis where nature can flourish, surrounded by the large urban forest. And throughout our entire agency, the legacy of our nation's founder continues to inspire us. Today's vision and mission are clear. The U.S. Capitol is a symbol of Western democracy and a historic landmark. It is also one of the most architecturally significant buildings in the entire world. As we consider what the next century will bring, we are engaging in our own visionary process for the Capitol's future that will include an updated, comprehensive master plan. At the same time, AOC employees are working tirelessly to upgrade capabilities and facilities to meet the technical, space, and accessibility needs of the 21st century workforce. United in our shared mission and goals, AOC staff has improved security measures across campus in close coordination with the Capitol Police, as well as the House and Senate Sergeant at Arms. While some of these changes are more visible than others, we have worked continuously throughout the pandemic to preserve and maintain the Capitol complex. AOC's budget request seeks additional support for critical measures to ensure safety of members of Congress, staff, and visitors on campus. As the subcommittee considers campus-wide security improvements, the AOC needs adequate resources to support our partners in the Capitol Police, as well as the House and Senate Sergeant at Arms. We must work together efficiently and immediately so that resources are appropriately aligned towards our shared priorities. Our safety and security depend upon our united strength and collaboration. With the committee's full support and sufficient resources, I stand ready to implement these urgent and necessary requirements. As this committee knows, delayed funding has consequences. We're working constantly to reconcile the cost of historic preservation and pressing modern demands. We need to take immediate steps to address deferred maintenance across the Capitol complex. The AOC's budget request reflects essential life safety projects for the safety of all and well-being of everyone who works and visits here. While physical security and infrastructure improvements are top priorities, I also remain focused on transformative change within the AOC. We need to cultivate and maintain a positive and productive work environment where people have the necessary skills, training, equipment, and support. Every day, I'm continually impressed and inspired by the expertise, tenacity, and determination of AOC employees, reflecting a wide range of roles and responsibilities. We are all contributing to the success of Congress, the Supreme Court, and the Library of Congress. Together, we're getting the job done for the American people. Despite all the challenges we have overcome during the past 2 years, I remain optimistic and determined about our way forward. The Capitol will continue to endure as a beacon of democracy, serving and inspiring future generations. Yet our success depends upon our collective ability to be consistent and unwavering in our focus, commitment, and results. On behalf of the architect of the Capitol staff, I thank you for your support and look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Blanton. We appreciate it. Appreciate your testimony. We know you're seeking to implement a lot of the recommendations that were given to you for improvements to build the whole campus up and to provide security. So I got 2 or 3 questions along those lines, because as Ms. Herrera-Butler said, this is a significant increase that you're requesting. So if you could, share with us a little bit, just to give us a little background on what you all have done already or with regard to safety around the campus. What is the coordination level that you're having right now with the Capitol Police and the Sergeant at Arms around the security? And how does the budget request correspond to funding requests from the Capitol Police? If you can kind of go through that for us, it'd be terrific.
Yes, thank you. So over the past year, we've done, using existing appropriations. Well, let me back up. Immediately following the events of January 6th, we asked for transfer authority so that we could do a comprehensive physical security assessment of the Capitol building and the Capitol complex. This assessment broke the Capitol into several zones where we were looking at the different security ratings within these zones. Paramount to this was making sure that we aren't defending ourselves against the last battle, but realizing that taking lessons learned from the events of January 6th and using that to inform a number of different threat scenarios across the campus. Concurrently, we've been doing upgrades to the chamber, in the House chamber, where the speaker's lobby was upgraded, the chamber doors were upgraded, and also the gallery was updated. We also built a new foundation alarm around the Capitol building that will help deter and identify when people are trying to scale the Capitol. We've upgraded kiosks for the Capitol Police. We've, in the House leadership offices within the Capitol building, installed peepholes to the leadership doors, installed anti-intrusion hinges on leadership doors, and other security devices. So there's been a great deal of work that's going on. The current projects that are identified in the AOC's 2023 request have been greatly coordinated with both the House and the Senate Sergeant at Arms. They were involved in the process from the beginning, as well as the Capitol Police, to develop what the scope for the comprehensive security assessment and the mitigations that we're asking to fund afterwards. And if can you forgive me, I can't remember what your third question was. Capitol Police. Yeah, apologize. So the Capitol Police is getting a significant increase in their manning and budget and personnel requirements. You'll see in my budget is a commensurate increase, because, for example, when you have more officers, we need at least more space, and they need more storage, and so there's a tail associated with the increase in Capitol Police. I will say we've worked very closely together to ensure that any Capitol Police initiative has identified the AOC portion of that initiative, so that we can determine and have full visibility of what the solution on the Capitol Police side is, what it involves on the AOC side.
And now, what other priorities are reflected in here that maybe you haven't mentioned? I'll give you a minute or two to answer that.
Well, thank you.
Outside of the comprehensive assessment. Life
safety and deferred maintenance. If you look at all of our projects, with the exception of the resubmission for the Module 7 book storage for the Library of Congress, every one of them is addressing either a life safety or a deferred maintenance issue. Of great concern to me is our fire suppression around this entire Capitol complex, and the deterioration of the utility tunnels, the 4 miles of utility tunnels around campus. Some of these are being held up by wood shoring, and I have people that go in there every day, and there's a risk of it could collapse. We have expansion joints, and I don't know if you've seen videos in the past of where manholes were shot up 40 to 60 feet in the air in New York City when these expansion joints break. And so that's a danger to not only my staff, but it's also a danger to anybody who's walking around campus at that particular time.
Ms. Herrera Butler, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that last front, has that your requests for funding on those issues, is this something that was made by your predecessor? I have a hard time believing that we have spent this much money on the canon renewal project, and some of it was really necessary, and then some of it was just changing it and updating it. But I have a hard time believing that some of those, whatever was more cosmetic or artificial is more important than what you just described.
So these requests were submitted in previous years. In fact, all of them are really follow-on phases to programs, and they just get funded in smaller increments. And it's now some of the deterioration though has been accelerating over the recent years.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's talk about this fire safety piece of that. So you know, in talking about you've shared with us your concern over the lack of sprinklers in the Capitol building, and obviously the hazard there. And in the omnibus that was recently passed, there was $6.8 million to address that concern. Will that adequately meet that need to eliminate this hazard, or do you need more? Do you think more needs to be done? And then also, what's the timeframe for installation of the sprinkler system now that those funds are in hand?
Great, thank you. The 6.8 million was actually for the design effort for the sprinklers within the Capitol building. It finishes the sprinklers in the basement and then addresses the sprinkler systems in the first through third floors. The fourth floor was done through in-house labor forces using our already appropriated money. So with the time frame, this is a very extensive design for this building because you have to make sure that we're not just putting red pipes up on this historic fabric. And so it's going to take at least a year and a half for the design effort, which would then put this at the earliest in line for the 2025 budget submission.
So we're not getting any like actual fire suppression benefit out of that money this year. It's all
No,
design.
it's designing it this year.
We just hope that a fire doesn't start this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the risk, and that's what scared me after the events of the 6th. If inadvertently something happened,
Started a fire.
yes. I will say we are going to be also using my already appropriated dollars from 2022 to do attic sprinkler system within the chamber. So that will make it so that if we have a fire in the chambers, that there will be a means of safely egressing out of it.
What about like the wood or the really flammable material? I guess it kind of just depends on the room you're in, huh? It depends on where you're
That is
at.
correct. Some of the rooms are
Better.
yes.
Okay. I learned in an emergency, don't be in the chamber. Let's see. So I wanted to switch a little bit to the Capitol Police Board transparency, and you know, as the AOC, you're one of the 3 voting members now, right, of the Capitol Police Board. Last year, you suggested the board does have some kind of some needless secrecy, and I wanted to know, do you think that the board, because they've made a lot of changes this year, they're finally, you know, implementing those GAO recommendations, or at least a number of them, they're on track to. Do you think it's still the case in terms of the transparency of the Capitol Police Board, or are there further changes you recommend?
So I think the way the Capitol Police Board has made monumental improvements post January 6th. The coordination is significant between all entities of the Capitol Police, including the chief of police and their staff, much greater than it ever has been in the past. And with that, there is definitely, and I want to speak for the other sergeants at arms, but we have a great sense of wanting to be as transparent as possible.
Good, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera Butler. We are going to the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Espaillat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you once again for allowing me to ask questions. Mr. Blanton, the AOC has a pattern of discrimination going back 20 years and a pattern of settling lawsuits with no further action in terms of firing the perpetrators involved, or who in fact, in some cases was a supervisor. How will your budget address this alarming internal matter that, and how will you hold bad actors accountable, especially with already 2 allegations just this year?
Thank you for the question, and I can tell you I take this very seriously. I will say the allegations that are from this year are actually legacy allegations that were just coming up in court now, and they have been reviewed by AOC, and determined that the allegations were not true. One of the challenges we have with it when it goes to court is the U.S. attorney that is taking the case oftentimes will do a settlement, and that settlement is not actually negotiated between AOC and the individual. It's between the U.S. attorney and the individual themselves, since they're representing the United States government. And then we'll find, like with one of the cases, we actually found out about the negotiated settlement by reading about it in the newspaper. We weren't even informed of it. What we are doing now is we're under a multi-year journey to change the culture of AOC. I'm investing significant resources in a cultural transformation. This is starting from the top where it's modeling good behavior to now we're getting down into the more senior level of supervisors. And we also are in areas where we are noticing issues, whether it's from discrimination or if it's just bullying or some other culture issues. We're having small working groups with them to bridge each other and teammates. A lot of the issue with AOC is some of these people come from various cultures all around this area. We're a very diverse, both geographically and racially organization. And
that should be a strength, Mr. Blanton. That should not be a liability or weakness. The diversity issue should be a strength. But if you don't have the systems there in place to keep people from engaging in this kind of behavior, it will continue to be a problem.
And those are the systems that we're putting in place, because I believe diversity is a strength to an agency as well. Diversity in individuals, but also diversity of thought, because you bring in different experiences and different ways of looking at it when you have a diverse, or looking at any problem when you have a diverse organization. And that's what those small groups are really meant to do, is to really build that glue that keeps the organization together and builds upon our diversity.
Mr. Blanton, real quickly, as the architect of the Capitol, you're one of the 3 voting members of the U.S. Capitol Police Board. The Capitol Police, including the board, have come under significant criticism for a perceived lack of transparency and accountability to congressional stakeholders and the general public. In fiscal year 2021 and 22, this committee directed the Capitol Police to create a process for the public to request records, to publish arrest information as data, and to make the Capitol Police Inspector General reports available online. So far, none of these directives have been implemented. Can you explain why, and when are they going to be in place?
So, Congressman, I'll have to take that up with the Capitol Police and get back to you, because I cannot speak for the Chief of Police. I don't know.
You are a member of the board, correct?
That is correct. But I want to make sure that I'm coordinating an answer with the Chief of Police so that we get you the proper answer. So I'll take that for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Espaillat. And Mr. Blanton, let me just say that I think the entire committee is in agreement with Mr. Espaillat and the issues he's bringing up, and we're very concerned about it. And hope you will report back to us with the answers and continue to try to change the culture there. And this committee stands ready to help in any way that we can. The distinguished gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade. Mr. Amade.
Hey, thank you for your courtesies. We're just monitoring you, and I yield back.
Distinguished gentleman from Washington State, Mr. Newhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to hear from you, the chairman from the state where the home of the very first professional baseball team, the Cincinnati Reds. There you go, Reds. Welcome, Mr. Blanton. Thank you for being with us. Just a real general question first. we did get your budget detail, and I appreciate that. However, noticing on your website, justification for the budget has not been posted. And since we're looking at an increase from, I think last year, $782 million enacted budget to this year's request of over 1.6 billion. Can we expect that detail to be posted soon, sir?
The justification for it,
Yes, sir.
of that 600 million total are security projects. And so that detail won't be posted, but I will offer to have a meeting with you and discuss any of those projects in as much detail as possible.
That would be very welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And maybe some of the other members of the committee might be interested in those numbers as well. My office is in the Cannon building, and so the renewal project is reminded of several times a day. It was started, I believe, my first year, 2014, initially expected to last for 10 years and cost $752 million. At this point, the last number I heard, we're expecting a $934 million cost. IG report of March of this year stated that because of COVID and the events of January 6th, cost to complete this project probably will increase by another 5.6 million. So question is that correct? And also, I understand that the phases 1 through 5 include renovating the existing 5th floor of the building. Is that still the plan? Will the 5th floor continue to be worked towards completion?
That is correct. The 5th floor and the next for this phase and the next last phase, we're still going to continue the construction of new suites and built out of the 5th floor. The report that the IG referenced, those were actual, mostly historic costs that were eaten in the program. And when we received from the COVID and security supplemental, we reimbursed the project for those costs. And I appreciate the support of the committee for that. The latest increase from the integrated cost risk schedule analysis is really focusing on the inflationary aspect of the materials now. The materials they've gone wide in their fluctuation in cost. At one point, they were up over 100%. Now it's down where they're down, and then increasing of the 70 to 80% for some of the key materials like cold rolled steel that are used for the walls and stuff like that. So we're continually focused on that, but we are seeing that is going to lead in phase 3 for that a $33 million increase than we expected. That was funded in our FY22 omnibus, and I appreciate the great support of this committee for the Cannon project. What you see in 23 and on our 24, that's really a cash flowing so that we can pay the contractor bills. It's not to get the award of the contract. That's what we needed to do in the 22 budget.
Well, thank you. Short amount of time left, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Capitol Visitor Center. There's a request for over $27.5 million there. As far as I understand, the CVC is still closed to the public, maybe set to reopen soon, next month. As you can imagine, my office has been flooded with requests for constituent tours. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I had a group of constituents that had to wait outside in the rain, outside the Cannon building in order to get through, since they have to go through my office for tours. Just wanted to verify that information. If it's still closed, is it set to reopen? And if you could share with us the metrics you used in choosing the delayed reopening of the Capitol Visitor Center.
So thank you for the question. The visitor center itself is closed as an entrance to the Capitol building. The reason for that is it's manpower for the Capitol Police. It takes a significant amount of police presence to have the main doors of the visitor center manned. And the chief is confident that he'll have, because of the increased number of people going through the Federal Law Enforcement Academy, that around the Memorial Day weekend, that he'll have enough manning to partially open the doors in the front, which then would allow the rest of the visitor center to be open.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. The distinguished gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Blanton, for being with us again. I wanted to focus first on the energy conservation efforts that you're undertaking. I understand you're partnering with DOE, DOE's National Renewable Energy Lab, to complete an analysis of potential renewable energy opportunities. And I wondered if that analysis has been completed, and if so, if you could share some of the opportunities you may have identified.
So the analysis is still underway.
Okay.
I will be more than happy to share the results with you. I think I'm excited for it. I will say that I am very proud in the energy conservation measures that the AOC has undertook. If you look at the goals that were established under the Energy Policy Act of 2005, when we used a baseline that was common across the entire federal government, we've reduced our energy intensity, and that's measured by the amount of energy per square foot, by almost 50% in that 15-year period, which is significant. If you were to rank all of the federal agencies across the entire government, we would have the third greatest reduction in energy conservation, in energy consumption. And a lot of that is by our cogeneration plant that we got funded for several years ago through an energy savings performance contract, and then also doing these energy saving performance contracts at various jurisdictions around campus. The study that we're doing with the Renewable Energy Lab is now looking, instead of having them done in silos, like one for the House and one for the Senate and one for the library, is doing it broad across campus so we can maybe get more synergies from the different jurisdictions.
Oh, that's great. How is, I know some of the early analysis was looking at solar. Are you evaluating the feasibility of solar across the campus?
Yes, we are. My rule of thumb is for every roof project we do, I want to have an analysis of solar to be put on that roof if we can make it fit into the historic fabric or structurally fit.
Great. On the condition of the Capitol complex facilities, I know the recent estimate of damage caused by the January 6th attack on the Capitol is a total of 2.7, which is up from the 1.5 million estimate from May 2021. I wonder if you could tell me sort of what drove some of that up, and have you initiated a comprehensive facility security assessment?
Thank you, and yeah, I'll answer the second question first. That's what we did a campus-wide facilities, a comprehensive security assessment post January 6th, and we used the Army Corps of Engineers Threat Reduction Center, which really is their expertise in the entire executive branch. Like, for example, they do the White House, and we also brought in a Defense Threat Reduction Agency to come up with scenarios, risk-based scenarios that we would come up with physical mitigations to. And so that is complete, and we have been briefing oversight and appropriators in both a classified and an unclassified setting on this, so that we could provide details at the appropriate level for members and staff. And I'll welcome providing a brief to you if you are interested.
Okay, great. I have two quick questions about restrooms. One, we have 3 gender neutral or single stall restrooms for 5 house office buildings. Do you have a plan for building out more of these in your renovation and construction?
The short answer is yes, because one of my initiatives is having a building official that goes through and reviews every project for code. So when we do a major renovation, it's now modern code to have what they call family restrooms. They could be any male, female, and children can go in together. Those would be those gender neutral restrooms. And also we have looking to make sure that our restrooms meet ADA criteria as well.
Okay, great. Yes, we have a problem with that as well. Very quickly, I see my time is out. We talked in the report language from last year's budget about making sure that your budget covered free feminine hygiene products available to no cost in our house office building restrooms. Does your budget include that, or do you need additional resources to get that done?
We don't need additional resources.
Okay.
What we did identify is either whether it's report language, and I would prefer if this is done joint between the House and the Senate, so we can say across campus. The cost is small enough that it's already mixed into every one of our jurisdictions' budgets.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Mr. Blanton, thank you. We appreciate it. In the interest of government efficiency, we are finished with our agency hearing. So no one could ever say that the legislative branch subcommittee is not efficient. But we look forward to staying in touch. A lot of the issues that the committee raised here today are very important for us, for our constituents who visit here, for the Capitol Police and all the staff members that work here. So we got a lot of work to do, and we're going to go over your budget very, very carefully. We know it's important, and we want to support you the best we can. And we appreciate your time here today, and we'll be in close contact with you over the coming months. With that, this hearing is adjourned.